Well, hello. We're going to talk about crime again, and obviously we're still, dealing with the senseless killing of this police officer that happened in broad daylight in the middle of rush hour in Far Rockaway. And in this video, we're going to kind of go over how we're, at least we're not learning our lessons here. This killing is actually kind of reminds me a little bit of back in 2012. There's a story here. 11 years ago, a fatal traffic stop. Very similar now to what happened here. Fatal traffic stop. Somebody was fleeing the scene of an accident. So we're going to play these stories. This was from this past fall. News 12 covered this as well. And Officer Arthur Lopez was shot and killed during a traffic stop on the Nassau-Queens border 11 years ago. So this happened back in 2012. We're going to play this story.
As Nassau County Police marked 11 years since one of their own was shot and killed in the line of duty. News 12's Nicolette Schleisman was in Floral Park as members of the Nassau County Police Department, NYPD, and FDNY honored his legacy this morning.
It's been 11 years, but the pain is still there for the family of fallen Nassau County police officer Arthur Lopez.
Obviously, today is probably the worst day of our lives, but the support has been amazing.
On October 23rd, 2012, Officer Lopez was making a traffic stop along the Nassau-Queens line when he was shot and killed. To mark the somber occasion, dozens of members of the Nassau Police, NYPD, and NYFD gathered at the small memorial near the site of the young officer's murder.
How many times do we have to go through this,
Near the Cross Island Parkway, showing solidarity with his family.
He thought he was getting out of his vehicle to help a disabled motorist. That individual was on parole, had a loaded handgun, and fired one shot and killed Arthur. We don't forget.
Sound familiar? Sound familiar? You have violent people out there that shouldn't be on parole. They shouldn't be out on the streets.
Never forget.
It's been 11 years, and Nassau County Police have made it their mission to always honor Officer Lopez's service and sacrifice.
We promise to the families that this memorial behind me stands of our remembrance, and it stands for our union.
Members of Officer Lopez's family say the support they get from the Nassau County Police Department has been unmatched.
It's amazing, and what they've done for my family, my aunt, my uncle who passed, my cousin, the support is still going on.
In Floral Park, Nicolette Schleisman, News 12, Long Island.
A beautiful tribute there. Now, the man convicted of killing him, Daryl Fuller, was sentenced to life behind bars. He died in prison in 2019.
So, obviously, there are a lot of services. News 12 was all over this, covering this, obviously. And I'm hoping that I'm really hoping that, that this doesn't happen again, man. But we're going to talk about the suspect here. All right, this guy.
And Officer Diller's
right
death
here,
has been charged
monster
with murder. His name is Guy Rivera. News 12's Krista McNally joins us live now from outside the courthouse in Queens with details on that. Good evening, Krista.
Good evening, Joe. That's right. The man accused of murdering NYPD officer Jonathan Diller today was arraigned in his hospital bed. That arraignment was broadcast here at Queens Criminal Court. 34-year-old Guy Rivera is facing charges including first-degree murder. According to the district attorney's office, Rivera refused to cooperate with police during a traffic stop on Monday. Before prosecutors say Rivera opened fire on 31-year-old NYPD officer Jonathan Diller. Prosecutors said in court, when Officer Diller was struck on Monday, he immediately fell to the ground. The bullet hit him in the stomach and became lodged in his hip. After allegedly shooting Officer Diller, the district attorney's office says Rivera then pointed the gun at Sergeant Sasha Rosen. They say the gun was loaded but jammed and could not fire.
And thank God for that. Otherwise, we might be talking about two police officers that that we lost. But we are still talking about, what happened to Arthur Lopez. And now we're seeing this happen all over again. I mean, a dangerous person on the streets that shouldn't be on the streets. How many more times do we have to go through this?
Prosecutors say Rivera was then shot and injured by another officer. During his hospital arraignment today, Rivera was awake and answering the judge's questions, but he showed no emotion at all. His attorney...
It's just a monster. It's the monster.
Attorneys denied the allegations, but prosecutors say there is video footage of this incident and, quote, there is no doubt Rivera is the one who killed Officer Diller.
New York City has been mourning the death of Jonathan Diller, Officer Diller, a father, a son, and the city has been mourning him since Monday, and we will continue to do so. Today, the person accused of murdering him is remanded. He will not get out.
Yeah, I think he wouldn't get out.
If convicted, Rivera is facing up to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He is due back in court tomorrow. The prosecution said in the courtroom a grand jury indictment is expected.
So Guy Rivera, this guy, career criminal. Oh, come on. You think gonna let me read it? Really? So anyway, this guy right here, Guy Rivera. All right, well, I guess it doesn't want to let me read it. That's nice. We'll read it from Fox News, and hopefully they don't. Really? These sites just really are right. Let's try this. So, he's been charged with murder. All right? And this guy should not have been in, and the fact that Trump attended, trying to make this a political thing. I mean, I'd like to know why the governor has not attended yet. Why hasn't she shown her respects? What makes sense of this? It doesn't anymore. You know what? Rules and laws have got to change. Nobody's trying to look for a fight. Let's just get a change, said Police Commissioner Patrick Ryder. It's just such a sad thing, and this keeps happening. This keeps happening, man. Ex-con. He's an ex-con. Sound familiar? And we have a clean slate law now in effect in New York State. A clean slate law, which I'm totally against. Dangerous people belong behind bars. It's that simple. It's that simple. And even though he was wearing a bullet-resistant vest, the bullet hit him beneath it. So just because they're wearing bulletproof vest does not give full protection. But this guy, Rivera guy, never should have been out on the streets. Never should have been out on the streets. All right, and now we mourn the loss of another police officer, just doing his job. Because we can't keep violent people behind bars in the state. Something is seriously wrong. How many more times does this have to happen? Anyway, it just doesn't seem like we learn our lessons. And we talk about all the crime going on that continues in the subway. A man bashed in the face with a glass bottle at Columbus Circle. Happened Wednesday night. The 44-year-old victim was on a northbound A train at the 59th Street Columbus Circle station around 10:20 p.m. when he was attacked by a tall man donning a purple hat and yellow pants. It's unclear if there is any interaction between the two. Suspect then fled the scene while the victim was transported to an area hospital in stable condition with a gash to his head. It's the latest subway assault to grab headlines in recent weeks, including another attack at the Columbus Circle station last week in which a 19-year-old man was beaten and robbed by 13 people on a northbound D platform. And on Monday, in East Harlem, a man was fatally shoved onto an oncoming 4 train hours before an NYPD officer suffered a nose-breaking punch to the face at that very same station. 800 officers are being deployed. But, again, what's the point here? We're not getting the dangerous people off the streets. We're not putting them back behind bars where they belong. They get arrested and they get released. Time and time again, and the crime will continue. It's just going to continue. And let's get to the latest local crime that we have here affecting my area, because this is not a surprise at all. Nassau County Police 3rd Squad reports the arrest of a homeless man. Again, we have these vagabonds just roaming around our community. You know, we just let them hang around when they should be off the streets. But they arrested a homeless man on March 26, 2024, at 4:34 a.m. for multiple burglaries that occurred between Tuesday, March 12, 2024, and Tuesday, March 26, 2024 in Nassau County. Of course, this was not covered by News 12 because, again, I understand they need to cover what's going on with this police officer being killed senselessly, but what about all the other crime that we're dealing with? So, the defendant here, Peter T. Grana, 31, burglarized the following locations: 67 High Street in Hempstead, 3365 Hillside Avenue in Herricks, 70 Main Street in Mineola, Davenport Press, 560 Westbury Avenue, Carl Place, Westbury Golden Nail Spa, and 449 Old Country Road, Westbury, Perfect Salon and Spa. The defendant is charged with 5 counts of burglary, 3rd degree, and criminal mischief, 3rd degree. And he will be arraigned. He was arraigned on Wednesday, March 27th. We don't know if he was let out. He's probably back out on the streets again. And again, these are career criminals. You know what? You know what I feel about homeless? There are programs to help the homeless. But they refuse. They'd rather live a life of crime and do their drugs. And we just let them do it. Instead of saying, you know what, either you're going to get help or you're going to sit in jail cell, which is what we need to be doing. But we're not doing that. So that's why we have the crime that we have right now going on. And there's all different degrees of it. All right? So the crime in this state just continues to get out of control. And again, we don't learn our lesson. And lastly, I'll talk about the bridge collapse at Baltimore. Again, this happened back in Florida many years ago, Sunshine Skyway. A ship crashed into the pillar of a bridge. You'd think they would have learned the lesson to make sure to put protection around the piers of the bridge so a ship couldn't hit the bridge and that would never happen again. But here we go again, happening again. Another senseless loss of life, another senseless disaster that could have been prevented. I just don't understand why we can't do a better job protecting people's lives in this country. Well, that's all I'm going to say. Have a good night.